Johannes Calvinus, Institutio Christianae Religionis, 1536, Episode 1. This excerpt is from the 1536 edition of Calvin's Institutes, which was the first one. It was divided into 6 brief chapters. It went through several editions and revisions until the final one was released in 1559, 5 years before Calvin's death in 1564. This section is De Coena Domini, on the Lord's Supper. Alterum Christianae Ecclesiae Institutum Sacramentum est panis in Christi corpore sanctificatus, et vinum in eius sanguine sanctificatum. Vocamus autem vel coenam Domini vel Eucharistiam, quod in ipso et spiritualiter benignitate Domino pascimur, et nos illi suae beneficentiae gratias agimus. Alterum, there is a second sacramentum. A second sacrament, institutum est, has been established. This is a perfect passive. A second sacrament, Christianae Ecclesiae, of the Christian Church. This is feminine singular and genitive, showing possession. It is the bread in Christi corpore sanctificatus, made holy, sanctified in the body of Christ, and the wine, vinum sanctificatum, made holy or sanctified in his blood. So sanctificatum in each instance we would perhaps translate as set apart as holy, because I believe that is the idea which Calvin has in mind here. Notice how simple the structure of this sentence is. There is a tremendous amount of parallelism. Panis in Christi corpore, vinum in eius sanguine. Here Christi is replaced by eius, but panis and vinum are at the head of their clauses, and each one ends with a predicate adjective. Sanctificatus in the masculine, because panis is masculine, and sanctificatum in the neuter, because vinum is neuter. Bread, wine. Moreover, autem, and I'm taking this as a continuative use of autem. There is also an adversative use. Moreover, we call it either the Coenam Domini. We call it, meaning the Alterum Sacramentum, the second sacrament. Alterum second here because baptism has been dealt with previously in the typical order. We call it either the Coenam Domini, the Lord's Supper, the table of the Lord, the supper of the Lord, or we call it the Eucharistiam, the Eucharist. An interesting thing to note about well is that well is a disjunctive, which is, we might say, ampliative or explicative. It doesn't draw a distinction between two things that are opposed, but two different ways of expressing a similar idea. This is quite different from out, which is a stronger and more pure disjunction, and completely different from on, which is used in interrogatives only. But all three of them will be translated typically as or, and so listed in the lexica, but it is very important to distinguish between the meanings. So we call it that, the Coenam Domini, he says, because in that very thing, et spiritualiter benignitate Domini pascimur, because in it, in the supper, we feed spiritually on the goodness, the kindness of the Lord. Pascimur takes an ablative of means, and that's benignitate. And also, we agimus gratias, we give thanks to him, illi, for his kindness, suae beneficentiae. So the two ets here are both and, because in it, meaning the sacrament, we both do this, and thus it's called the table of the Lord, because we feed on him spiritually, on his goodness, his kindness. And secondly, it's called the Eucharist, because in it we give thanks, gratias agimus, to him for his kindness, suae beneficentiae.